All right. Well, my name is Shawn Mickaels. I served for 10 years in the United States Marine Corps. I was infantry and a combat engineer. I served in Iraq in the extended tour from 2003 until 2005. In that tour, I was wounded a couple times, shot in the knee, blown up a few times by IEDs. I came home in 2005 and was forced into a medical discharge. For me, that was a tough thing. I always just wanted to be a career Marine. It was the only thing that made sense to me and made me feel like I had purpose and that I made a difference in the world. So when they kind of kicked me off the ship, is how I like to put it. It was a very difficult time. I pushed forward, got a college degree, and started up my family. I had a young child at that time, and a wife, which I connected with very little. I worked 100 hours a week as a chef. I would come home just to check in to make sure everything was still there in place, and then it was drink myself to sleep. Things all came to a head in about 2011, where I was just burnt out. There was no connection at home. Home was a fight. I felt like they were better off without me, that anyone could be a better father or husband than I could. So at that point, I pretty much gave up. I turned to drugs and alcohol for a little while, and then checked myself into a lot of different programs through the VA and other nonprofit agencies. And a lot of them worked for a short period of time, fixing my brain. A lot of acronyms, I found a home back there with veterans, and it was easy to stay there and not go back home. But there was a big part missing. I felt like I wasn't fulfilling a lot of duties. Survivor's guilt ran very heavy with me because we lost men in my unit in previous deployments. Depression. I finally made the decision to go back home, and it was a very difficult time. I didn't know my place. I didn't know how to discipline my own child. I didn't know what a father was supposed to do even. Some of the moral injuries that were incurred in combat with children, I would flash back on my son to those instances. And it turned into isolation, turned into fighting with my wife just to make a meal, simple things. I would find any reason to leave the house and pretty much run for myself and my duties as a father and as a husband. I got in a little bit of trouble, and there was this flyer came up, and a person from Adapt for You talked to me about, you ever thought about making your family whole again and working on some of those duties? And at that point, I was ready to try anything. So I signed up. It was a very professional organization. A lot of people who really seemed to care about making my family whole again came into our homes. They were very nice, giving toys to my child, and and then we went through the online portion with a great psychologist out of Minnesota, And every week, my wife and I looked forward to it because it was a point where we could honestly communicate and work on different techniques. Um, some of the greatest things that I got out of the Adapt for You program was just um, the realization that really my legacy is my son and my family, not really the missions that I had in Iraq or Afghanistan or even in the Marines in general. That now is the time to find happiness in my life. Um, and they showed me that to listen to my son, which was a strange thing, I guess, for me. I just looked like kind of almost as an obstacle, something I had to do. Um, I look at it today like I get to be a father. I don't have to. And that's thanks to the program, because they said find a thing and make it every day. So I meet my son at a tree outside of his school every day, and we take the long way home. And I just listen to him talk. He's so intelligent, and he has range of emotions. And I fell in love with my son again. I know that sounds kind of weird, at least coming out of my mouth, but it's true. Um, I found that when my home life was good, that I could do anything outside of the house. My anxieties went down. I stopped taking a lot of the prescription medications as doctors ordered. I didn't just stop, but I didn't need them anymore. I felt like I had a strong core. I was communicating with my wife if I had an issue. We would sit down every night and have an hour of discussion on just where we were at. And before it was like two separate people living under the same roof, and she was dealing with me, and I was just trying to survive on life's terms, and I didn't want to. Um, to be completely honest, this program has turned my whole life around 180%. For anyone looking to try something when you feel a little lost, when you have a home life but you just don't know if you want to go home, when you're having issues with your wife, when things are a constant fight, they have tools in here, and formulas that make sense. You just follow that and you make it your own, and they work. Incentive charts that have children wanting to do chores. And it's strange when your wife sees you take control and be a father. She has this different kind of a trust and a love for you, and it develops a home life that I wouldn't give up for anything in the world. It's made my life worth living today. So if you are looking to do something different, and some of these programs that you tried maybe, or maybe you just want to communicate with your wife better and you want to raise your children with just a few different techniques. The whole spectrum can be handled here. I would love to see this program go DOD wide. It should be in the hands of every veteran that struggles at home. And that is my hope for this. Thank you for listening.